Hello and welcome to More Than a Game, a podcast about the A-Leagues, Premier League and more. This week on More Than a Game, City and Ancelotti serve up a Champions League classic. Kuol Runnings, Garang and Alu, as mentioned, light up for good and bad reasons. Popper's boys get too wet and slippery for the Knicks at Amy Park. And of course, being that it's close to the end of the season, we're going to cover the business end of the Prem, the Championship, the A-League, and of course, what everyone tunes into the pod for, Bundesliga too. So it's going to be a great pod. We're glad that you're with us, joining us from the Emerald Isle, but joining us from the UK, we've got George. How you doing, mate? Great to have you on.
Thanks, boys. Yeah, lovely to be here on a bank holiday weekend.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
If only we're just
no holiday for me.
We're just coming off like two long weekends. So tomorrow 5-day week. Oh, it's going to be hard.
Three if you're in Queensland, Tommie.
Oh, no way.
Labor Day here tomorrow, 3 in a row. Love that. That's for
unreal.
Us.
Wow.
You're going to struggle when you get back to a 5-day week the following week, right? You'll be like, no, what are you talking about? We only do 4-day weeks here now.
2 weeks holiday and then, coming into a nice 4-day week.
Very nice. And how are you doing, Colby?
Very well. I'm just happy to have us all back on the pod together. Tommie, happy George is here. I just want to hijack the pod. I've got a question for George straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Last time I was speaking with pod favorite Andy, he was telling me about how you might have done some business recently on his bed, and not the kind of business that people are.
This is one for the Johnny Depp Amber Heard sort of business.
No, not that kind of business. This is one for the OG listeners of the pod, where we like to mention our sales on Gumtree or Marketplace or anything like that. Just talk us through that, George.
Yeah, so obviously got a new bed in, and so Andy obviously moved out, and so we had a spare bed in the flat in Andy's old room, and I knew Andy and I purchased some, bottom of the basement IKEA beds and mattresses when we first moved in, and I sort of took a chance on Gumtree, and I said it was a spare bed, guest bed, hardly used, in perfect condition, and
it's been used.
Took some nice photos with a couple of filters, and Bob's your uncle. I managed to get 150 quid for it.
Woo! Wait, 150 pounds?
Yeah,
that's wild.
Thank that.
The secondhand bed and mattress market is thriving in London. I tell you that. Everyone's come back from all the other parts of the world, and they need somewhere to rest their head on. So I profited off that.
Must be a shortage of secondhand beds in London or something.
Yeah,
people paying crazy prices.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh wow, love to see it. All right, boys, let's get back to the football and
back to you in the studio, Tommie.
Thanks, mate. Let's kick off with our respective moments of the week. George, you want to go first, mate?
Yeah, boys, an easy one for me and an obvious one, really. The Champions League semis, Real Madrid, and I'm honing in on that man, Benzema. Saw him live a few weeks ago against Chelsea. He absolutely destroyed us in that first leg, and is there a man in better form? Like he's just sensational. Everything he does is quality, and were we sleeping on him like 4 or 5 years ago when Cristiano was leading the line? Because the man's absolutely exceptional, and the fact that
he's selfless. He's too selfless. He's too much of a team player.
Yeah, but then when he gets a chance, he absolutely destroys. It's never not missing. Yeah. So that volleyed finish against City was incredible, and then obviously the penalties. So the man's is absolutely on fire as I've ever seen a striker, and he's keeping them. He's sort of solely pretty much responsible. I would say him and Courtois are the two sort of bookends getting Real Madrid the title, but it's France must be just licking their lips. I don't know how they didn't win the Euros with him back in the team, and they're looking good for the World Cup. So yeah.
Well, that's the thing, George. He was kept out of the team for shenanigans reasons. The French that is. Imagine what his stats could be like for France with that kind of lineup behind him.
And you think if that all didn't happen, would he, have won Ballon d'Ors? Would he, would we be holding him in that sort of upper echelon that he's sort of regarded in now? He didn't do himself any favors with all that, and it sort of affected the public perception. But like as a pure footballer, the man's a genius, and he's got to be right up there with some of the best in the world.
It's the French Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, the old hand wrap. What's the?
Anytime you see a man in the hand wrap,
Actually,
you're sweating.
Uh-oh.
You're sweating as a defender.
Not to digress too much, but I did a bit of a deep dive on his why his hand is wrapped, and he's had a broken, I think, thumb or finger for a year and a half, and if you guys have a spare minute and you've eaten breakfast already, you have a look because it's sort of swollen. And it's bubbled up, and he's opted not to have surgery because obviously, he was playing throughout the season. He didn't want to have a break, and then the Euros happened and all that, and now the season's back on again, and so he hasn't had time to have surgery, and it's pretty disfigured. So good on him for plowing through when others probably wouldn't.
Does that get your bonus points for when he inevitably wins the Champions League with Real Madrid, and then we're looking at Ballon d'Or for the end of the year?
You've gone early with that call, Tommie.
Easy, Tommie. Easy.
That I'll tell you what, it's going to be real just chef's kiss areas when Real Madrid do win the Ballon d'Or and Benzema wins the Ballon d'Or after everyone is just saying, oh, when's Lewandowski going to win it? He's due. He's been the best player for years, and then it'll be his time and he won't win it. Oh, it's gonna be amazing. I can't wait to see it.
It's got to be.
You're right. I have gone early though.
Yeah.
Colby, what about you, mate? What was your moment of the week?
It's got to be Kloppo signing a 2-year contract extension, doesn't it? Takes him through to 2026. Kloppo? Yeah, everyone's boy, Tommie. Our boy, Jurgen Klopp. His current contract at Liverpool was due to end in 2024. Now there to 2026. He's done everything, hasn't he? He's broken the Premier League title drought. He's given the club a Champions League. He's built depth, improves pretty much everyone who walks in the door, and he's still got the team motivated after 7 seasons or whatever he's been there for. That's the biggest thing that sort of goes under the radar. Like, those players are still running through brick walls for him week in, week out, and most some of the best managers in European football history, or at least in the sort of modern era, say that it's 3 years and the players just stop listening to you basically, and you've got to move on to a new club. So for him to have the team just ticking along like that, not ticking along, but running through walls, like I said, that's just outstanding.
And it's pretty impressive because he wins that trophy for second position most years, and they're still pretty fired up, Colby.
Mate, he's won bags of trophies since he's been there, and this is against Pep's bloody Manchester City with money coming out of their ears, mate.
One Premier League title, though,
Easy.
Not George, you've totally got it there.
Bear.
Wow.
I'm poking the bear.
It's great to have you on.
We're still on for the quadruple. What are you talking about?
He's second place of failure, Colby. Let's get down to business.
Hey, the season's not over yet.
Oh, this is great.
City got some pretty big games coming up, don't they?
Yeah.
Newcastle.
Yeah.
Alrighty. For me, there's a couple of Aussies that were doing business this week. Last week, I think it was, I had Riley McCree's performance and getting on the score sheet down as my moment of the week, and I could do the same again this week because he's on the score sheet again. This time in a 2-0 win over Cardiff. So a goal and man of the match performances in successive games, which is great for him. And last time on the pod, we were talking about his injury worries that sort of been a little bit niggly for him. So it's great to see him playing and doing really well. And also want to have a bit of a shout out to Kuol, who made his debut for Sandhausen in the Bundesliga 2, which look, this could quite easily be my own goal as well, though, because Kuol came on in, I think it was the 81st minute, and Sandhausen were down 1-0 against Schalke. in the Bundesliga 2. Sandhausen actually equalised, and you think, oh, this is fantastic. The scene set for Kuol to sort of get the winner here, but instead he absolutely loses his head and absolutely plows someone and ends up getting sent off in his debut 10 minutes.
It caused like a pitch invasion too, didn't it, Tommie? I saw the little clip of this.
This was wild, and there were players.
To Germany.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what you get when you train with Matt Simon.
Yeah.
Definitely taught him all he knew. But look, great that Kuol actually got some match time, because he's been obviously there almost all season. I think bar a few games at the very beginning, but not sure he's going to get much more playing time now for the rest of the season at Sandhausen. So, but as it turns out, Stuttgart, his parent club, they're on track to get relegated anyway from the Bundesliga. So there's a chance that Kuol could be in Bundesliga 2 next year anyway.
All the more reasons for us to follow it on the pod, Tommie.
Along with Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson will still be there.
Yeah.
We'll come back for more Bundesliga 2 chat in just a second.
Put a pin in that.
I'm not finished. I'm not finished yet. Boys, George, what about you? What was your own goal?
My own goal is Melbourne City, and they're making a hash of the ACL qualification. So as it stands, boys, I've got it up here. They need Iniesta's team Vissel Kobe to beat Kitchi in order to guarantee qualification in the Champions League. So they actually finished second in their group on 12 points, but because and I'm going to single out one guy, Tommie's mate, Tom Glover. In the game before their last game against, I think it was the Korean team. Where are they?
Jeonnam Dragons.
Jeonnam Dragons. So City took the lead in nearly the 80th minute with a Jamie McLaren finish, and then Tom Glover came out and basically gloved one to the Korean team and scored. They scored, and the game ended up drawing 1-1, and that's basically cost City top position in the group. And now they're relying on other teams to become the third best second runner up to make it in. So it looks like they probably will get in, but they're still relying on Vissel Kobe to get a win away. And City actually needed to win last night 5-0 to guarantee qualification, and they only won 3-0. So
how wild is it that you can be second in your group, undefeated, and you potentially don't go through to the next round?
Equal on points as well. It's not
points,
like there was a massive gap between first and second in that group either, right?
It's not like the European Champions League, boys. It's way more cutthroat. So,
and you know who we can blame for this? We can blame Aaron Bloody Moy, because his team didn't rock up. So that's why it's so convoluted like this, boys. So thanks, Aaron.
So no, fair play to City, but my own goal was really aimed at Tom Glover there.
Have we got some coefficient points at least?
Yeah, I think City have racked up some, but I mean, it could quite easily be another own goal is Sydney FC's performances in admittedly a pretty tough group, but they've had 2 draws and lost their last 3 against the likes of Yokohama, F. Marinos, and John Book, the Korean Giants as well. So they've had a bit of a tough run, and they play I think they're Vietnamese, Hwang Ji Lao. They play them tonight, I think, at 9:00 Australian Eastern. So they can still rescue a little bit of pride, Sydney, but it's looking like they're going to finish bottom, I think, in their group. So yeah, not exactly racking up a lot of coefficient points at the moment, the boys. And obviously Melbourne Victory, they didn't get any either. So yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much the Asian Champions League wrap up, which we're going to do shortly anyway. But Colby, what about you, mate? What was your own goal?
Well, I guess one has to go to the Everton fans setting off fireworks outside of Chelsea's team hotel ahead of their fixture this week, as if it's some kind of European cup final or World Cup qualifier, do or die interconfed playoff in South America or something.
This is Everton's cup final, really, isn't it?
This is it. I mean, it's a, like they're on the ropes now, Everton, really. It's like do or die. They got to get points from, pretty much anywhere they can now, and they'll do anything to get it. It's just wild that they could actually go down, and you've probably planned this for a chat later, Tommie, as well. But like, come on, guys, like, yeah, own goal. You're setting off fireworks in a domestic league outside of someone's hotel in, like, I don't know, somewhere in Liverpool, presumably.
It's look, it's a fine line, we always say on the pod, between something being a moment of the week or an own goal. Like, this could have quite easily been my
I can imagine this would be some people's moment of the week, but
yeah, because it's great shithousery, but at the same time,
if they get the result, maybe.
Yeah.
Own goal if they get flogged. Yeah.
It's the team talk, isn't it? It's just like, what is it? Tuchel just like plays a recording, some firecrackers to fire up the boys and gets the adrenaline going. Colby, did you have a second one, or
I do. It's I mean, the Socceroos social media, Tommie. They often do these like Socceroos overseas. Here's our boys. Like, look how good they are. Like, Riley McGree's got a goal here, and whatever, what have you. And so they did one of all the boys that are playing in European clubs, but they headlined it with Aiden Rustic's Eintracht Frankfurt on track for a European final. Van was an unused sub on the bench. Like, he didn't play, he didn't have any meaningful involvement, and he's like headlining the social media post. Come on, guys. Come on.
I get what they're trying to do, but still, it kind of misses the mark, doesn't it?
Yeah, like, come to us, give us an update when he's like had a meaningful impact on a game, if he's like playing week in, week out. Like, he's
had a minute on the pitch.
Yeah, he's coming off the bench for them in the Bundesliga at the moment, which is like, I mean, that's okay, I guess. But yeah, like in this particular post, he was sat on the bench.
Nothing really to write home about, is it?
No.
And I mean, plus, it's only going to be a bit more embarrassing for the Socceroos social media team when Frankfurt get eliminated in the return leg. So there you have it.
Interesting.
more about Europa League, like everyone has been waiting for, coming up though. My own goal this week has got to be back to Bundesliga 2, looking at St. Pauli, Jackson Irvine's team. They've been well within the hunt for a promotion spot into Bundesliga or Bundesliga 1, depending on what you want to call it. But they look like they were on in the hunt for a spot, and they've absolutely shat the bed over the last couple of weeks.
Ooh.
Had 2 losses, 3 draws in their last 5. They had a promotion 6-pointer, we'll call it, against rivals Darmstadt recently, and this week they drew with Nuremberg as well. So didn't pass that trial really there. So really disappointing for Jackson Irvine, and it does look like Jackson Irvine and St. Pauli and also Connor Metcalf that they're likely to be playing Bundesliga 2 next year, which we were sort of having a bit of a chat about this in the group chat, Damo and I, this morning, about whether or not it's actually such a bad thing that Connor Metcalf potentially could be going to Bundesliga 2, right? Because if he goes to, if St. Pauli get promoted and Connor Metcalf is playing for it, or at least contracted to a Bundesliga team, chances of him actually playing that much probably not that high. So
much harder to prove yourself in a Bundesliga team than a 2 Bundesliga team, where you could be relied on, get in the team, play week in, week out, be established in the team when they go up.
Exactly right. So I think St. Pauli will be sort of thereabouts again next year in the Bundesliga.
Go again.
Yeah, but I think it could turn out to be a bit of a blessing in disguise. We've only seen how good it's been for Denis Genro for Toulouse in France. They've been promoted this week up to Ligue 1.
Well, John Rose played like every game as well. So
yeah, I think I think at the very beginning when he first arrived, he sort of took a few games to sort of break into the team. But then, yeah, like you say, he's been ever present for them ever since, and I think he's really impressed while he's been there. So I guess we can only hope for that the same might happen with Connor Metcalf as well. And everyone who watches the A-League knows that he's such a talented player. So can only be good things, I think, for Connor Metcalf and Denis Genro and co. So But look, a few more little bits of news and listener questions and such for us to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about like and this could have been an own goal as well, but it was something that only just popped up just before I was about to jump on the pod. And earlier in the week, a lot of people would have heard about Minarola's death. And everyone, like, there was lots of sort of posts talking about that and how obviously he was very very missed by his family and lots of tributes and stuff. But then there was a report that came out that said that he hadn't actually passed away and that it was all fabricated, and it seemed to include him as well as part of this. But now I see in the last 24 hours there's been something from Raiola's official account saying or confirming that he's passed away, which, I mean, it seems like he passed away, then he didn't, and then he did. And I don't really know what to make of it all, but it was confusing to say the least. But I guess also just sort of talking about the man, I mean, regardless of what you thought about sort of his approach, there's one thing that was undeniable about him, and it was that he always got the best deal for his client, at least financially speaking. So yeah, interesting character.
And also, there's some deals to be done the end of this season. So I wonder where that leaves all those.
Exactly right. I think so he just got Donnarumma that deal to PSG. I know he's Haaland's agent, or was Erling Haaland's agent. I think I'm trying to think who's the other. There was one other big one. It's just escaping me. But anyway, like you say, there's a few more.
He was a big agent for a lot. Like he was Zlatan's agent.
He's Pogba. I think he's Pogba's agent as well.
Yeah.
And I guess they're the two big ones that are likely to move this coming window is Haaland and Pogba. So it'd be very interesting to see how that all pans out. But I mean, I think a lot of people are just expecting Pogba to go to PSG, and really, how much has an agent got to do there? You know that PSG are going to pay over.
The Haaland one, though, he's probably got like active discussions going with 3, 4, 5 clubs at the moment. Like you see him just. Yeah, I feel like every day I open up social media and like he's in another Premier League top photoshopped onto him. So,
oh mate, it's wild. Speaking of big names, though, Dwight Yorke, he's going to be making a return back to the A-League, though, this time not in a playing capacity, but he's definitely going to be bringing the bling, and that's this time as the coach or the manager of the A-League All-Stars for when they play Barcelona in the off-season. So what did you guys make of this? Are you a fan of Dwight Yorke coming and despite never having managed before, being the manager here for this?
I'm a fan, Tommie, and I do like how he sort of come out and said he wants to be taken seriously as a manager. Have you seen sort of how he doesn't have any experience, but he said he's here to manage, and he wants to get some respect in the managerial world. So
has he got his badges or?
Who knows? I don't know if you need your badges to coach the.
What does the manager of an All-Stars team do? Like, how much coaching do they do? I mean, they set up the team. They pick the players, they pick the starting lineup, and they make the substitutions. But what else do they do?
Come on, man! You got to be realistic about this. They've got to write their names up on the whiteboard and the shirt numbers as well on the whiteboard.
Isn't that the assistant All-Star manager? Isn't that what they do?
You just is he going to have an assistant?
He's got to pick a nice
putting
suit.
The cones out, and
he's got to pick a nice suit to wear on the touchline. I think.
All right, boys, we're going to be playing 20-minute quarters. Everyone's going to get a good run.
Oh wow! But I think if there's one thing that's for certain about Dwight Yorke coming, it's not going to be dull. I think it's going to be interesting I don't know in what way, but I just know it's going to be interesting. In a little bit of a sidestep away from strictly A-League, the AFL, it's been announced this week that they're likely to be negotiating some sort of a pay deal, a broadcast deal with Paramount Plus. And whilst this isn't strictly A-League, it does have a bit of an impact on the A-League. And I guess I wanted to ask you, the two of you, sort of, is this good for the A-League that it's likely that Paramount Plus is going to have sort of another big sport on board? Does it sort of rub you up the wrong way, possibly, that the A-League has been used as a bit of a test run for the platform, possibly, or what did you guys think?
We might finally get that rewind function, Tommie.
Any moment. Any moment.
Yeah, on Colby's point, I think it means more investment, better infrastructure, more probably eyeballs on the subscriber service. So I don't know how the deal's going to be structured and how it'll work with, the existing pay TV platform and all that with the AFL. So that's one to watch. But I actually think it means they're putting their money where their mouth is, and the service is going to have investment. So and more people are going to be subscribing, and more sports fans are going to be subscribing. So it might actually boost some interest in the A-League as opposed to sort of burying it.
Yeah, think of the cross promotion. I mean, the more A-League players holding a share in promotional marketing material.
AFL round, guys. AFL round.
Come on.
Can't wait to see the AFL have A-League round as well. That's how that's going to work, right?
Everyone's going to be doing the soccer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Very good. So, and look, one more thing before we get into the A-League proper, though, and listener question from @StroopTease. I assume it's a he. He asks, which current A-League player do you guys think will become a manager or an A-League manager? Throw out a couple of names, maybe to sort of
prompt me, Tommie. I haven't had this question on notice.
Lee Broxham.
I think he can
Corey Brown. I'm going to say Corey Brown, Tommie. Don't ignore my legitimate suggestion. Corey Brown and Macklin Freak have just been made managers of the Marist College Ashgrove First 11. So he's getting his experience in.
Mate, I'm surprised that wasn't your moment of the week. I feel like you've been sitting on that real low key.
No, I know. Damo flicked that to me during the week, and I was and someone else tagged me in the Facebook post on Marist's post when they put it up as well. So yeah, I have been sitting on that one.
So Lee Broxham was a bit of a teaser, but one player who I can really see becoming a manager because he kind of already behaves like one is Scott Jamieson. I feel like he sends out big manager vibes.
He'd be getting sent off every week, but yeah, I could see if Muskie can do it. He probably can, right?
I could actually see him being the assistant to Paddy Kisnorbo, and they would be like a deadly duo on the touchline, wouldn't they? You wouldn't want to fuck with them.
Nope, not at all. And look, one other player, he has retired, but I don't think he's made a move into coaching or into managing. And he gives that real sort of similar. He was also the captain of his team as well, but gives that really similar vibes as well to Scott Jamieson, and that's Matt Makai. He's a player who I thought was destined to pretty much go directly into management within sort of a year or two of retiring, but just hasn't panned out that way. But he's another player that really gives out those sort of that sort of authority vibes, even as a player and while he was playing. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, he's another one who's been managing one of the boys' schools in Brisbane as well. Been managing,
of course, he has.
The Brisbane Grammar First 11 for years. So, maybe he's getting his badges. Maybe he'll be more qualified than Dwight York soon, boys. So
maybe Daniel Sturridge, boys. He doesn't seem to be doing much else.
Don't reckon he could manage himself out of a paper bag, to be honest.
George, didn't you see his starting performance and assist for Perth Glory?
Oh, was that? Oh, no. I knew he was back in. I didn't know.
Social media's just been going wild for it.
We'll have to edit my comment out then. Post.
We don't do any editing anymore, mate. So sorry to disappoint.
He touched the ball twice. One of them happened to be an assist.
Look, boys, we're rapidly going into A-League chat though, so let's just get straight into it, shall we? Round 24/25 of the A-League was over the weekend and midweek as well. The last couple of weeks, we've been talking about our A-League anti-power rankings, though. So, look, I think before we get into sort of some of the games or some of the sort of broader themes of what's going on in the league at the moment, let's talk some power rankings, though. So, Colby, you want to go first? Who's going up in your power rankings at the moment?
Hard to go past the victory for me, Tommie. They had a very, very convincing win over Wellington, which we'll talk about, 3-1 on Friday night. And frankly, 3-1 flat as Wellington. Victory went up the gears, like you've said in your notes to this game. But this marked the 200th win for the club. They're creeping up. They've passed Brisbane Roar now, well and truly on the all-time A-League wins. They're creeping up to Sydney FC. And this is a huge turnaround from them after getting the spoon last season to be challenging now for the Premier's plate. They're unbeaten in, I don't know, it's like over 10 or 11 games now. It might even be like a bit more than that, but they're on a huge unbeaten run and they're hitting the form at the right time. They're just looking absolutely ominous for finals. So yeah, they're definitely on the up for me.
Could we finally see Popper win a grand final? Because he's yet to win an A-League grand final, isn't he?
Yep.
Despite what he's been in 3, I think, from memory.
He likes to win the Premier's play.
The second place trophy, you might call it, George.
The Jurgen Klopp Memorial Trophy.
George, what about you, mate? You're not sure how much of the A-League you're catching at the moment, but have you got someone who's going up in your power rankings at the moment?
Well, I've been seeing a lot about the Mariners boys, and there was that classic F3 derby, and then they've won again. They've won against the Woos. So I've always sort of thought they were kind of no good, but it's good to see that they're after years and years of being at the bottom of the table, the youth development and the infrastructure there is paying dividends. So yeah, the Mariners.
You mentioned about the Mariners and how they beat the Woo. Like we're getting to that point in the season where there's a lot of teams that are playing games that don't necessarily have much riding on them, right? But this was a game where the Woo were chasing top spot if they won it. Obviously, big game for Central Coast as well. Lots of pressure on them because they're still chasing a final spot as well and had to win to stay in the top 6. So big pressure game for both teams. So yeah, huge result for the Mariners and a pretty big loss as well for the Woo. So yeah, good shout there, I think, on the Mariners.
And this might be this would be the first time if the league table stays as it stands that you'd have the top 3 clubs all Melbourne based. So I don't think we've seen that before, but it'll just mean finals will be really, really, really Melbourne centric. So unlucky for you, Colby.
George, we could have no New South Wales based teams in the top 6 other than, I suppose, the Mariners. They're New South Wales based, fine. But almost no New South Wales based, certainly no Sydney based teams.
That's incredible.
In the top 6. It's wild. Like Sydney can still technically make it, but if they don't, it's just going to be the Mariners holding, flying the flag for New South Wales in the top 6.
Yeah, and MacArthur and Sydney.
They're out now, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
MacArthur cooked, yeah.
MacArthur cooked. Yeah, so there you go. So that'll be interesting, and then it looks like a potential Melbourne Derby grand final one way or another. So that will be exciting.
It'll possibly be either a Melbourne Derby or a Melbourne Derby that's not a Melbourne Derby as a grand final.
And the Melbourne Victory fans decide what the derby is, and ultimately they're the gatekeepers of that. So if Victory fans could let us know which are the official derbies. And which clubs are actually your rivals and which aren't, that would be good.
Well, with all these exhibition games being played at the MCG, we should start a petition to get the A-League Grand Final played at the G.
Couldn't think of anything worse.
Fill it.
No, I think you could be honest.
They can't even fill Amy Park, George.
George, I think you could be onto something there. Let's have the A-League. Let's have the A-League Grand Finals like the curtain raiser to Barcelona versus Aston Villa or something. Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Brazil,
triple header with the A-League All Stars.
Argentina, yeah.
Oh shit, boys. What about who's going down in your power rankings this week?
Oh well, I'm going to jump in. It's got to be Brisbane Roar. They're 11th. And, you think that's second last. How much further can they go? But there's further. They technically can't win the spoon, but they're without a sniff of finals, obviously, and they haven't been for a number of weeks now. they performed okay against the VUC at home, but it was a rotated side, and they had a chance of sort of spoiling the VUC's run into finals, spoil a bit of momentum. But as it was, they had a draw against them, and like that was probably flattering to the Raw, in my opinion. And no fight at all against Adelaide away. I know it's at Cooper's, but I mean, at this stage, they're just blooding youngsters and playing for contracts. And the first half against Adelaide was absolutely dire. It's like they're well and truly on the beach, in a competition where there's no promotion and relegation. It really has shown in some of these matches for the Raw.
I know it's probably been a bit of a tough season for you to watch, Colby, but I kind of maybe because I can be a little bit more objective not as a supporter, but I look at this Raw season and I actually think they've probably overachieved, in my opinion, because
well, if they could score goals, they'd be fine. There's some bright sparks in the squad. Like the midfield needs work, and they need a forward. They need to nail a visa player next season. They haven't nailed a visa player in a little while, probably since Aldred and O'Shea, so a couple of seasons ago. But they need to score goals, and they need a bit of steel in midfield.
Mm-hmm. And like you say, they're playing so many youngsters as well. I mean, the Mariners have shown that, look, you can play a lot of young players and still do all right. But obviously, you look at the Mariners and who their visa players are, and just most of them are all banging, right? So, and they've also got a lot of other just really good A-League players too. So, bit of a different situation, I guess. So,
I actually think the Mariners and the Jets are now the benchmark or the gold standard for what a club can do with low resources in this league. Like, it's a salary capped league, so you'd expect most teams to be able to give it a good crack every year. But like they're good examples of, like, they don't necessarily always spend their marquee allocation or their full budget. And look at what they've done. Like Newcastle have brought in Papaz, they've extended his contract. Central Coast, we all were really worried that it was just the Stajic impact, and when he left, was going to a rookie manager in Nick Montgomery, and they lost some key players and they didn't make many signings. What are they going to do? But they've brought in, like George said, they've kept pumping in their academy players who have all stood up, and they've got their visa players right, both clubs. So they're now, I think, the gold standard of what like a low resourced club in this league should be able to do.
I think that's a pretty decent shout. Colby, I wouldn't disagree with that.
And then bouncing off that, Colby, you look at the Mac Bulls.
Yeah, that's it. They're stacked.
They're stacked, absolutely stacked. They had a young, promising manager who's now leaving to go back to Croatia for family reasons, I read. But he's clearly been sacked because of the performances this season. And the well-resourced club, cherry-picked A-League talent from other clubs and ex-Socceroo type players. And it's sort of the wheels have sort of fallen off this season.
It's been very disappointing for the McBulls. Boys, there was a bunch of fixtures already been played this round. As Colby mentioned, the Raw, they went down 2-0 to Adelaide. The Mariners, they beat Western United 1-0 in a big game for both teams, like I mentioned. Melbourne Victory, they beat Wellington 3-1 in the wet at Amy Park. And Newcastle Jets, they beat Macarthur this afternoon in Newcastle 3-0, and a pretty decent result for the Jets. Boys, I'll ask, they're basically the same question, but slightly different. But one relates to the Premier's Plate and one relates to, I guess, the top six. And did these results help you decide who's going to win the Premier's Plate? So we'll start with that one first. Out of the Woo, City, and Victory, who are you guys thinking, or who in your mind is starting to firm up as the favourite for winning the Premier's Plate?
Well, it has to be City, Tommie. Like, it's City's to lose. Like, they're ahead in points. They've got two matches to play. They've got Perth Glory away and Wellington Phoenix at home. So winnable games both for them. And Melbourne Victory have only got one game to play. And it's the Big Blue, Sydney FC. It's away too, so anything can happen in that. And it's a must win for Sydney as well. So Sydney have plenty to play for. It's a very big rivalry, that one. So anything can happen in that. They've got the much tougher of the fixtures.
it would almost be more motivating for Sydney that they can stop Victory from winning the plate just by getting a result, right? So they would love nothing else other than to let their Sky Blue cousins get the title, I think, and it not be Melbourne Victory. George, what about you, mate? Do you think City are still the firm favourites, or you think the VUC or the Woo, you think they're a decent chance of maybe sort of stealing it from under City's nose?
I think City have just started rolling now, and they're all clicking. Tilio's in excellent form. I think, as you guys mentioned, I think Tommie threw out an MLS potential contract for Tilio the other week. But I think City are rolling, and just having a look at who. And the Woo are still in with a sniff, so they've got a game against Newcastle away and Adelaide away. So Adelaide is still in the mix. So I think that's probably tough, and you never know what you're going to get with Newcastle. So it's probably City's to lose, and I think they're just like their front sort of 3-4 is just way too strong compared to other teams. And if Tommie's man Tommy Glover can hold it together for a couple of games in the finals, I think City will be too good.
I do think it's going to be very interesting when City do return from the ACL, because they've still got a couple of really key players that are going to be out for the remainder of the season in Aidan O'Neill and Berenguer. I think they're both unlikely to return, so really tricky for them. And I think it's going to make for a more exciting final series, that those injuries and those absentees are going to sort of bring City back into the pack a little bit and make it for a bit closer games, I think, because I think everyone sort of looked at that City side when they were in top form and thought, City are just going to romp away with this. And but I think it's actually going to be far closer than what people maybe are originally thinking.
I think the champion conversation is more interesting, Tommie, because it's City's to lose. They've got better fixtures. They've got 2 games, and they have to drop both of them. They'd have to lose both of them for the Victory to claim the Premier's plate. But I mean, in terms of form and going into finals, as we know, anything can happen in finals, and form counts for a lot, and experience counts for a lot. And yes, City do have that now, but Melbourne Victory have got it in spades as a club. And they're hitting form right at the right time. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting.
Fair enough. Boys, on to the top 6 though. It's starting to look like Central Coast and Wellington, like they might have sort of tied up those final 2 top 6 positions. You think that's the way it's going to finish now? You see anyone else sneaking in? MacArthur, Sydney? I think it's probably too far now for the Jets. I think they're Jets. Excuse me.
I don't think the Jets can make it. No, Sydney can make it.
Sydney mathematically out of it now. Yeah.
So Sydney have got the game in hand. They've got an extra game. So
yeah, they've got Victory and they've got the Raw as the final game of the season up in Brisbane. So
I think if Sydney gets some momentum from the Victory game, then why not? But
it'll all come down to that for them, basically, because I think if they lose that, then it'll depend on the Wellington result. I don't know,
But I think that's the game to watch, because if Sydney can knock off Victory, then it sort of clears the path for Melbourne City then to sort of take out the Premier's plate, and then have a bit of a relax, depending on what the Woo does for their last game, and then roll into the finals.
I guess before we talked about teams being on the beach, and you do have probably the likes of the Wanderers, the Roar, and the Glory who are on the beach. But it's sort of apart from that, really, every team still has something to play for. So, and even if it's Adelaide, where they're just sort of hoping to get into good form, so that they're going into finals in the right frame of mind and with some good momentum, it's still very interesting for the final two matches or one match for some teams. Alrighty, boys. Let's. There's still a couple more games to be played midweek. You got Brisbane, they play Central Coast. Newcastle play the Woo, and Perth play Melbourne City on Wednesday after they return back from the ACL. So some of our questions could even be answered midweek as in terms of finals and the Premier's plate. So stay tuned for that. But next up, we're going to be talking some Premier League. So Premier League match days 34 and 35 were wrapped up and partially the way through at the moment. So Manchester United, they played Chelsea on Friday morning Australian time. That one finished 1-1. A goal from Ronaldo and Marcus Alonso cancelled each other out there. And then if we get into match day 35, Newcastle and Liverpool played out a 1-0 win for Liverpool last night. Big result for Burnley. They got up 2-1 against Watford. And we'll come back to that in a second. Manchester City, they beat Leeds 4-0 in what seemed like a pretty sort of routine victory for City, but also means that Leeds are sort of still in the relegation fight as well. And we'll come back to that as well in a second. A couple of teams now that are basically just on the beach, and that's Wolves were pretty dire against. I've got on the beach Brighton. They beat at the Waves Wolves. In my notes,
Cross the Waves Wolves.
Yeah, there was a really solid 3-0 win for Brighton. I don't think anyone was expecting Brighton to actually be any good now that they've been on the beach for pretty much the last.
They've had a couple of results lately. Yeah, they've decided to come back from their sort of.
Well, it's like they think they're in pre-season.
Yeah.
The beach is like their home ground, Tommie. They don't lose at the beach. Like our five-a-side futsal team when we went undefeated on the beach. We don't lose at the beach.
I fucking hated that. It was awful. You'd be slipping over everywhere with skinned knees playing on the AstroTurf. I'm so triggered. Sorry, distracted. But another thing as well, like Brighton also had missed a penalty in that game as well. So it could have even been more. It could have been 4-0. So pretty poor performance. I think Wolves manager Bruno Lage, he said that was their worst performance under this season since he's come into Wolves. So bit of a not great for Wolves. Southampton, they went down 2-1 to Crystal Palace. Ebere Eze, he got his first goal for 11 months after that really long injury layoff as well. And Wolves Zaha scored an absolute banger, I thought.
That was a belting goal.
Yeah, completely out of nothing. Contract or something? What's he working up from?
Real Pogba areas, isn't it?
Someone from Chelsea's called him George. He's on the move.
I don't think Chelsea can afford his
Someone from Arsenal's picked up the phone.
I think maybe Arsenal's.
Ten Hag, he's heard he's sniffing around.
Ten Hag's been doing his scouting. Rankings handed him the scouting notebook. So. And
also a bit of a wild line I heard during the highlights of this one as well was that this was Palace's first comeback win of the season, which I almost didn't believe that. And to be honest, I didn't go through all of their results this year and check them to verify that.
Check the tapes, Tommie. Double check them.
I'm going to have to take their word for it. But like they either get up first and win, or they go down 1-0 and just never get back into the game. So yeah. But look, so good result there for Palace, and also Aston Villa. They confirmed that Norwich are going down. Norwich are officially relegated, and to be honest, it's felt like they were officially relegated for months.
Since round 3.
Yeah,
three.
But I think, as it turns out as well, Watford are only 1 point above them as well. So I'm sort of surprised that Norwich are actually as competitive as they are this year. It's felt like they've been terrible, but they actually really haven't been nearly as bad as sort of what it seems.
It'll be sad to see Watford go. We'll have to be a Brentford pod or something next season, I suppose.
It was good to see Roy Hodgson on the bench with Sunnies on. I don't know if you guys caught it.
He looks very stylish.
Pretty cool, yeah.
It's like out of him and like Pellegrini in that Real Betis tracksuit. Who's bringing the most drip on the sidelines?
Which pensioner is bringing the most? Yeah,
it's like pensioners dripping is like the 21-22 like touchline vibes.
Oh, it's just giving me it's reminding me of Perlo and sort of all the Perlo vibes, right? After he retired. Not quite into
from being a coach.
Could be Pirlo in 30 years' time, Tommie.
Is he still a coach or yeah?
Oh wow. But look, just onto I guess more general matters though. Obviously, two banana skin fixtures for both City and Liverpool. Both City and Liverpool also rotated their squads quite heavily. With I'm not going to say one eye, I'm going to say 1.5 eyes on the Champions League return legs midweek coming up. So it still leaves City just 1 point ahead of Liverpool, and both teams will be pleased that they got 3 points out of both of those games. You'd be pretty pleased with to not slip there, Colby, against a Newcastle team that have been in fantastic form since New Year's.
Yeah, it was a bit of a cagey result, 1-0, but job done. But at the same time, Liverpool didn't really look threatened at any point during the game. They still controlled the match, but it's like when you're 1-0 up it's the 80th minute or whatever, you're lying if you're a fan of the club and you're not sort of sweating if you're in the title race and you think any team could come back and get you to drop points and you're out of it. So, job done.
I mentioned last week on the pod that I think Newcastle are going to take points off of either City or Liverpool in these consecutive matches against first and second that they've got, and I stand by that. So it does mean that if
crossed,
if after Liverpool knock them off, it inevitably means that it only leaves City that they've got to take points off of. So I think if it's an awkward position, being that they're only 1 point ahead of Liverpool. So if Liverpool do win their next game and City just get the 1 point, it then goes back to being a 1 point or 2 point ball game in the reverse though. So we can't sort of tie up the points without sort of a couple of game weeks fixtures going sort of the right way. So it's still going to be very interesting, and obviously Newcastle's first loss I think for quite a while.
And I think Tommie on that, I think what happens in Europe is going to play a massive factor in what happens in the Premier League. So if they both keep rolling, then I expect them to probably keep as is and keep rolling in the Premier League. But if one of the two has a bad result, or we have one of those crazy Champions League nights, then I probably expect it to kind of spill over into the Premier League, and it's going to really affect the teams, because I know that Klopp wants the Premier League and Pep wants the Champions League, I guess, but that no one wants to give an inch. So I think there'll be ramifications if things don't go right in Europe. And both are traveling, I think, aren't they? Liverpool's playing away, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So both teams are traveling to Spain. Both teams are traveling to Spain in midweek. So it's going to be really exciting to see what happens.
Do you think there could be some fireworks in Spain this week, midweek?
Depends what hotels they're staying at.
I don't think Villarreal are going to bother.
What, playing or with fireworks?
Well, maybe.
Alrighty, boys. Whilst obviously the title race is still running, the other big race is the relegation race, and this has gotten really spicy with Burnley getting another result this time with a late comeback with 2 goals in the final 15 minutes against Watford. Not quite, but pretty close to relegated Watford. So Burnley now are 5 points clear of Everton. They're level on points with Leeds. So Leeds are now right in the relegation scrap. And I remember a couple of weeks ago thinking, oh, no, I think Leeds are safe now.
Yeah,
but
this is insane.
Yeah,
Burnley's turnaround is, I think.
Told you they'd be safe.
Yeah. Who's this Mike Jackson guy? He's a genius. Who needs Sean Dyche? But,
come on, mate! Put some respect on the real brains behind the operation, Ben Mee.
Player manager.
But yeah, Leeds. Yeah, people thought their move to bring Jesse Marsch in was going to save them from relegation, and now they're relying on Everton just being shit to keep them up. So
we've all seen what happens in the first season of Ted Lasso, boys. They get relegated. Spoilers for first season of Ted Lasso, but they bring the American in. They're in a relegation battle and they go down. So that's just where it's got to go.
One thing to flag as well for Leeds is, Everton are playing Chelsea today, but Everton have the Chelsea game and another game in hand. So if they won both of those, then they would be on top of Leeds. But
It's
remains to
it's
be
a little
seen
bit
whether that's
strange because
possible.
George, I was checking the fixtures to see, and Everton don't have a midweek game this week, so their catch up game, I think, isn't for another week and a half or possibly even 2 weeks.
Yeah, so
It's
what they've got, I've got the fixtures up, Tommie. So they've got
Yep.
Chelsea today, obviously. Then they're playing Leicester away next Sunday UK time, and then they have a game against Watford, believe it or not, on the Wednesday. So Watford are
Good run.
Yeah, so Leicester, haven't been really a factor of late.
Leicester on the beach.
Yeah, so and Watford, who might enjoy relegating Everton, but they're already done as well. So, that they could.
There'd be nothing to play for Watford by that time. So
Yeah,
surely.
and then just checking the fixtures of Leeds. Leeds are playing Arsenal next Sunday, and then they've got Chelsea. So. And then a couple more games against Brighton and Brentford. So Leeds have got some tough games. So depending on even if Everton lose today, they're still in with a sniff. So this one might go down to the wire.
Yeah,
I think we would all love to see these three teams sort of fighting for survival on the final day, all simultaneous, right? Like that's the dream, right? Where there's something like that, sort of goes right down to the wire.
Goal
last
rush,
10
Tommie.
minutes of
Goal rush. Oh, the goal rush. Tommie, do you think
Gonna
do you think Burnley are out? Burnley are out of this, or?
I think anything can happen from this point. I think any one of these three teams could end up going down. That sounds very sort of sit on
Get
the
those
fence.
splinters out of your, you know what, Tommie.
But it's just so hard to know. I don't know if it's just sort of my anti-Frank Lampard vibes that keep making me think that Everton are going to go down. But I mean, Burnley have just completely surprised even the most optimistic of Burnley fans, I think, over the last few weeks. And so,
I mean, didn't you say a fit and firing Jack Cork is the key to Burnley season? I'm pretty sure you said
What a header!
And
Boys,
we
what a
laughed
header!
at you. We laughed.
What a header from him.
he's like the shortest man on the pitch as well.
They should put him as their number 9 with finishing like that.
Yeah,
one other thing to add, boys, it could be juicy. Everton Arsenal last game of this last day of the season. So Arsenal may need to win to stay in the top 4 or get into the top 4, and Everton may need to win to stay up. So I think mark that one in the calendar.
That is going to be a very juicy, or potentially could be a very juicy fixture indeed. Alrighty, we know that there's going to be plenty more twists and turns in the relegation fight, so we'll tune in for that again in the next couple of weeks as far as that goes. But look, one thing we do know that's confirmed, and that's that we've got a winner for the more than a game FPL for April. So very proud to announce that whilst Everton may not be doing so well, Everton fan Mace Caruana, he's been doing very well in FPL this month, and he's our prize winner for April. So congratulations, Mace. Well done.
Mace.
Overall, though, Danny Demosky, he continues to lead the competition overall. He's been, I think, leading the last 3 months straight. So he's going to be very hard to reel in. Whilst we've got our own Jesse, he's in 5th place overall and still well within a sniff of taking out the whole thing. So going to be very interesting to see how this final month of May plays out in FPL.
Tommie, for the listeners, Tommie, how are you and I going? How's the battle between MTAG hosts going?
Look, that is a very good question. Very well asked, Colby. I will check right now to see where we're at, because I know all of the listeners are desperate to know. Although probably not quite as desperate to know as you and I are. I just know that as of right now, after last night and today's...
I'm having a mare this week, so it could be an early crow, but mind the gap.
Oh, yeah. You are having a mare, but I'm also having a mare. But I tell you what, I think you've done really well last week after my mare of a free hit, and you're actually 50 points. 50 points? Yeah, 55 points ahead of me at the moment. So, the gap is bigger than what I remember it being for quite some time in either direction. So, well done, Colby, and I look forward to still beating you at the end of the season. So,
you probably will too.
I'm just trying to stay on top of Sal, so I'm one spot up on Sal and trying to reel Damo in at Damo's 109 currently. I'm 114, so
that's the real battle.
It's a real battle.
Wow, Sal
Bloody
and
hell.
George. There's not much between you guys at 114 and 115.
So
George,
that'll be the real battle.
Had to get all the way down to the third page there for you. So. But yeah, so look, plenty still to play for most players of FPL. Sal's just jumped into the comments saying that he hasn't touched his team for months. So George, you're losing to a zombie team
every week.
George, you're losing to a zombie team at the moment. So yeah.
That's some shithousery from Sal. Sal's actively managing.
I'm going to go back and check. I'm going to go back and check the record on that. Yeah, don't worry about that.
All right, and there is still a couple of games to be played in the Champions League and Europa League, the second half, or the return legs, I should say, of the semi-finals in both of those competitions. Manchester City, they beat Real Madrid 4-3 in an absolute Champions League cracker midweek this week. Jesse, who's been beating this drum all season, just reminded us all about how Martin Tyler just seems to be on life support during some of these games, and he just struggles to even turn the biggest of moments into a sort of commentary gem anymore. So kind of disappointing that was the way it panned out. But still, I think we can all agree that this is where the Champions League really comes alive, where you've got the best players playing at the highest level. And in knockout football like this, it just turns out some absolute blinders of a game. So it's going to be very exciting to see how this return leg plays out.
And
Boys,
to be honest, we all just want to see who's going to choke. So
this is where the choking happens. Yeah.
Just hate watching.
Boys, like I think most people would agree, and maybe that I don't want to sort of jinx Liverpool, Colby, or make you more nervous, but I think a lot of people would agree that the Liverpool Villarreal tie is pretty much dead after Liverpool got the 2-0 win. So I'll stick with the City and Real Madrid game. Boys, who do you think is going to take that out? Do you think Real Madrid could end up if they win the second leg? If they win the second leg, it then, well, as long as it's by only one goal, then I think it goes to extra time.
Yeah, so they need to win. They need to win 2-0, basically. I think Real Madrid were very lucky to pair back City 4-3. City in the first half could have really run away with it. Had heaps more goals, and fair play to Real Madrid. They scored well, and they got the penalty and the like, but. Yeah, City should have been well ahead at halftime, and it almost felt like and Rio Ferdinand and I think I can't remember who else was on the BT coverage, but they were saying when they were interviewing the City players at the end of the game, they were sort of acting like it was a loss, and they had to kind of remind themselves that they actually did win the game. So I think because of that, City are going to go into it really charged up, and it's always difficult to go to Madrid, but Chelsea's turned them over pretty well, in the quarterfinal away from home, so it's doable. And I just think City will be ruthless enough to get the job done.
Although it would be just like City to be in a Champions League knockout in a commanding position, leg 2, and just to choke. So
in a year where PSG have lived up to the stereotype, why not City? But I just think that just from the game and the way they were cutting Real Madrid to shreds, they're going to score. So it's going to be hard to not have City score. So it's going to be difficult.
I almost feel like another 4-3 is totally on the cards here, right? I think both teams are going to score. It's then just a matter of, okay, how many goals are each of the two teams going to score in just a shootout, right? So we could be in for another classic here in the return leg. So stay tuned for that, I guess. And look, what everyone I know has absolutely tuned into the pod for, and that's Europa League, high scoring, low kicking soccer action. West Ham, they went down 2-1 against Eintracht Frankfurt. Close game between two quite similar teams, both defensively solid and prefer to play on the counter-attack. It's probably the way that I would describe the two teams. Eintracht Frankfurt scored after 50 seconds, and while West Ham equalised, Frankfurt retook the lead again, leaving West Ham with all to do in the return leg on Friday morning Australian time. The other semi-final was between RB Leipzig and Rangers of Glasgow. Rangers went down 1-0 in Germany, so still quite a close tie there, but you'd probably have to say that RB Leipzig are still favourites to take that one out, even if I know that there's going to be a pretty loud reception for RB Leipzig at Ibrox for the second leg, so it's going to be an exciting one as well.
A few fireworks over the team hotel in that one.
Aye. But
what's
look,
your tip, Tommie?
Oh, look.
Before we close it out,
I think
he's too nervous.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to do. West Ham haven't been sort of this close to winning a trophy since 2005. Oh, it's too much.
Is the Charles Dickens going to be open for the game or what?
Oh no,
probably not. Nope. They've tried a couple of different venues here in Melbourne, and like for Friday morning, and yeah, no one's even really entertaining the thought. So I think it'll be a different spectacle though. If West Ham end up making the final, I think there's going to be somehow there will be the game on somewhere. So, but yeah, look, to be honest, I'm too nervous. The heart says no, the head says yes, so it's too much. But yeah, I think we'll just leave it there. But look, great pod this week, boys. I hope that all the listeners enjoyed it as much as we have as well. We will have those Champions League semis and plenty more A-League and Premier League next week again on the pod. So look forward to joining you all again then. Until then, enjoy the football.
See.